Let's get right into it. Number 6. Strategic disruption. Envision yourself standing in line at a cafe, ready to order something simple, like a muffin, when suddenly the person in front of you decides now is the perfect moment to ask 47 clarifying questions about the menu. They're not confused, they're performing. It's the Olympics of being inconvenient, and you, lucky spectator, get front row seats. Weaponized inconvenience is when someone behaves in a way that's technically allowed, but strategically irritating. It's the social equivalent of leaving a single square of toilet paper on the roll and insisting, well, there is still toilet paper. These people act like they're following the rules while actively trying to make everyone around them suffer through slow-motion agony. Psychologically, this behavior often comes from a sense of powerlessness. When people feel small, overlooked, or irrelevant, they can compensate by controlling the tiny things around them. And nothing says, I am in control, quite like making an entire bus wait because you only started looking for your wallet after boarding. Your brain notices these micro acts of sabotage instantly. It's built to detect threat levels, anything from tigers in the bushes to Janet in accounting, who's deliberately printing 300 pages at 1% toner. So when someone deploys weaponized inconvenience, your nervous system pings like it's DEFCON 2, even though the threat is basically an adult who refuses to walk at the same speed as the rest of humanity. In short, weaponized inconvenience is what happens when someone wants to feel powerful but doesn't have any actual power. So instead, they become a side quest boss in your day. Consider it the universe reminding you to practice patience, or at least reminding you why headphones exist. Number 5. Deflective burden transfer. Think of yourself talking to someone about something mildly stressful. Maybe your day was annoying. Maybe traffic hated you personally. Maybe your computer crashed because it felt like being dramatic. And instead of listening, they respond with, wow, you think that's bad? And suddenly, without your consent, you're now holding their emotional baggage like it's a live grenade. This is emotional hot potato, the art of redirecting any discomfort, responsibility, or vulnerability back onto someone else as quickly as possible. The person doing it isn't trying to bond with you. They're trying to escape emotional weight by hurling it at the nearest sentient being. And congratulations, that's you. This behavior often develops in people who were taught, explicitly or subtly, that emotions equal danger. Maybe they grew up with chaos, or maybe they learned early on that vulnerability gets punished. So their brain developed a survival tactic: never hold the emotional potato for more than 1 second. Toss it, deflect it, spin it, make someone else deal with it. For you, though, it feels like arguing with a trampoline. Every serious point you bring up just bounces back twice as fast. You try to express something real, and suddenly you're listening to them explain how your feelings are actually their inconvenience. What makes emotional hot potato truly unacceptable is that it erodes trust. You learn very quickly that this is not someone you can rely on. They'll never meet you halfway. They'll simply hand you their emotions like a bill they don't plan on paying. Basically, if healthy communication is a game of catch, these people show up with a trebuchet. Number 4. Manufactured remorse. Consider yourself walking through the desert of a mild disagreement. Something tiny like, hey, could you not leave wet towels on the bed? When suddenly the person you're talking to collapses dramatically into the emotional sand, proclaiming, wow, I guess I'm just a terrible person, huh? Congratulations. You've arrived at the guilt mirage, where accountability goes to die and melodrama thrives like a cactus with Wi-Fi. The guilt mirage is what happens when someone manufactures guilt to escape responsibility. It's not that they feel genuinely remorseful. No. This is guilt as performance art. Their brain goes, I could acknowledge this reasonable feedback, or I could emotionally fling myself into the sun and hope they feel too bad to continue. And poof, there goes your attempt at healthy communication. You, meanwhile, are left in a psychological funhouse where every mirror reflects you as the villain. Simply expressing a need becomes an attack. A request turns into cruelty. A boundary becomes an insult engraved on stone tablets. Suddenly, you're apologizing, even though you didn't actually do anything wrong. This tactic is especially sneaky because it masquerades as vulnerability. But it isn't. Real vulnerability is honest, open, and cooperative. Faux guilt spirals are just emotional smoke bombs used to avoid the quiet horror of self-reflection. It's a way to make the conversation about their suffering instead of the original issue. What makes this unacceptable is the long-term cost. You learn to silence yourself to avoid triggering the theatrics, and once you start editing your feelings for someone else's convenience, you're in a relationship where honesty is optional, but self-blame is mandatory. In short, when someone weaponizes guilt, they're not looking for understanding. They're looking for an escape hatch, and they're willing to drag your sanity with them as they dive through it. Number 3, shifting expectations. Have you ever played a game where the rules change mid-round? Like you finally understand the assignment, and then the assignment shapeshifts into a completely different creature? Welcome to the world of moving goalposts, the psychological equivalent of trying to win a race where the finish line is attached to a moving truck. Here's how it works. You try to meet someone's expectations, and instead of acknowledging it, they simply change what they want. You solve their complaint? Great. New complaint. You meet the standard? Excellent. New standard. You win the gold medal? Huh? They've now invented platinum. This is not someone with evolving needs. This is someone who refuses to let you succeed because your success would ruin their preferred dynamic. You always trying. Them always dissatisfied. The psychology behind this mess usually involves control and insecurity. If they keep shifting the expectations, they stay in charge. You stay confused, anxious, and desperate for approval. An emotional hamster running on a wheel fueled by, maybe this time, I'll get it right. But you won't, because the goal isn't resolution. The goal is the imbalance. People who move goalposts often rely on your empathy. They know you want harmony. They know you want to understand. And they exploit that by dangling validation like a carrot on a fishing pole held by someone who hates vegetables. Over time, this erodes your sense of competence. You start doubting your memory, your intentions, your intelligence. You begin to feel like everything is your fault because somehow you are always failing, even though no one could possibly succeed at a task that won't stop mutating. In short, moving goalposts aren't just unfair. They're psychological quicksand disguised as standards. Number 2, the Truth Distorter. Envision this scenario. You remember a conversation perfectly. The words, the tone, the moment crystal clear in your brain like a saved screenshot. And then the other person insists it never happened. Not I don't remember. Not maybe we misunderstood each other, but you're making things up. Suddenly, your mental screenshot is being treated like a glitchy hallucination from a 2003 video game. Welcome to the reality bender, the person who treats facts like clay and your memory like a suggestion. This isn't someone who's confused. This is someone who edits the record to avoid accountability, win arguments, or simply maintain control. They don't rewrite reality subtly either. They swing the narrative around like a glow stick at a rave until you're the one getting dizzy. Your brain, being a loyal but sometimes gullible friend, hates cognitive dissonance. When someone confidently denies something you know is true, your mind starts second-guessing itself. Did I mishear? Did I exaggerate? Did I dream this during one of those naps where I can taste colors? Before long, you start trusting their version of events over your own lived experience. Psychologically, this tactic is an emotional chokehold. It destabilizes you. It keeps you off balance. It makes you easier to control because once you stop trusting your memory, you start relying on theirs. And that's exactly where they want you. And the worst part? Reality benders often deliver their distortions with absolute calm. They don't raise their voice. They act rational, measured, even kind. Meanwhile, you're spiraling, trying to reconcile their confident denial with your own internal recording. It's like arguing with someone who keeps pausing and re-editing the movie of your life while insisting it's always been this way. In short, if someone keeps rewriting history and expects you to live by the revised script, you're not dealing with forgetfulness. You're dealing with someone trying to own the truth. Number 1. The Limit Violator. Think of yourself building a small, peaceful, emotional garden. Nothing fancy, just some boundaries, a little self-respect, maybe a "please don't call me at 3 a.m. to talk about your printer again" sign. Then along comes a boundary bulldozer driving straight through your mental petunias like they've been hired to clear space for a parking lot. Boundary bulldozers don't misunderstand your limits. They don't forget. They don't slip up. They simply don't care. They treat your boundaries as optional side quests they have no intention of completing. If anything, they see them as personal challenges, like you've issued a dare. Bet you won't stomp on this line I drew. And, oh, do they accept the challenge? The psychology here is usually entitlement meets selective hearing. Some people grow up believing their needs are inherently more important than everyone else's. Others learn that pushing boundaries gets rewarded. And some just enjoy the power trip of seeing what they can get away with. Your no is their try me. Your brain reacts to boundary violations like it reacts to a sudden loud noise. Instant stress. Because boundaries aren't just rules, they're protection. When someone repeatedly ignores them, your nervous system goes into hypervigilance mode. You start anticipating pushback every time you speak up. You rehearse your explanations. You overclarify. You prepare for emotional combat over things that shouldn't require combat at all. Over time, you learn the ugly truth. Boundary bulldozers don't accidentally cross lines. They pave over them, and then they act confused when you're upset, like you're the unreasonable one for expecting basic respect. If someone repeatedly treats your limits like suggestions, they're not just being difficult. They're showing you exactly how little your comfort matters to them. And that is behavior that should never, ever be tolerated. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them,